Social Descendo sua tanto tanto number shabana tomba wa shere boa da cho tanje tomba nye de senye memba manje ba manga ba tema memba tema da tawa memba tawa memba kawa memba wa shere boa da wana tomba nye la sume soa men to je men namba sheba me men na me chime lume yime sume tame teme rome reje me cho men da me je kame mane yi je kame yi je namba sheba kanje ba do ya men do mare ba saba me mane gashi men gashi sebe ba do ya men do descendo dungo wa da kunjo wa da go ba da la me Toba mama toba ya menda shere bo teta wana chanchu samana toba me bechere shere je paro to jima de la te jene de sana taba menje shi chulo ne shindu dene nyanga lente be thara chindu tu sundu namba chube sanje thaji je shiro je paro to jima de la tena lana maba yan toba zobe chanchu to ngomba ya de fumanga ba de la ya ra shi je toba yan toba jabo dene sanje je So tomo tomani sole tomani shema tomani leje so shema no de shendo so wa do she da number she bana tomba o shere bo de chota je tomani de tsi mama manje ba manga ba de mama ba de manda to ma ba kom shere bo de wana tomani la so men so men de je men na ma she ba na men na me je me le me yime so me ro me re je me che men de me je kama ma ne je kama je na ma she ba kanje ba do yame da mare ba me re ba sa ba me na ga she se ba do yame de shendo ro ngo wa da kun wa da go ba da la me she Toba mama toba yama de shere ba teta wana chanchu samana toba me bechere shere je baro de jeba tela de jene de sala toba me je sinjolo na shindu dene nyangalen deba thara chindu tu sundu na ba shiba sanje tanje je shere je baro de jeba tela dene lana mama yan toba zobe chinju zongo ba zoba saaj teta wana shere je baro de cheba nga raba cheba nga lana me be nga me nyama da nyamra cheba nga donga ta jaro de shere cheba nga me zube ne damba sheba je de shere je baro de cheba nga me bataya ta oma gade paranga de parasang gade bo de sowa shere bo chinju samba cheba de shere je baro somala labra jawa de ne chumde de tenga de Jeju samba jamba papa chara sonjo la so shi jawa jana la so ri je pote te no te 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 chi tar chi tamba te chi te shira je bharat chamala chabache te chi jamana je so irang chum te chi te ge ka sada damba shere pota jeju samba jamba papa chara sonjo ta ta je te de khoro ta ta la da men dal hama in da te je be je te ira te chum te je somba la ngomba to ta ta oma ga te paranga te parasang Tayatha Gade Paranga de Parasanga de Bode Soha 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 Namalama Chazalo Sanjala Chazalo Chola Chazalo Jindula Chazalo Yunjamashara Jabarajambala Chazalo Tajitim Jitangole ombo jeje yunjama shara jabara jambata soma yila si sangata jabala tena te te jala soba mende be chawata jicharon doba te shinto taji yunjama shara jabara jambata soma yila si sangata jabala te te jala soba mende be chawata jicharon doba jeje memba jeje shiwa jeje rabda shiwa joa je kanje tenje tawa jong gaba memba je memba chaba memba ta memba umo memba do memba ta ta te me Chobanji shishi denpa tsobe sanje mana je tamba tela cha tse lo jere tonda je jushi wata mendo nembe jenda ta wata tumba tuji pesunso je bata shi te ja tende tele sho Ome chi je nje potando tusu sanje kunye nguwa nye rasa ku chuku ngusu tu tsapa tsawa lama nalangu cha tse Tabje tuje sheje reso chwa shenje mendo tuje panchamba seje lomba tabanji beko sheje tso de langu cha tse teme waso toji chengu to mande sheje ngomba chi dawa tanje seba kunje chuje nyamen de gon renje ngo cha tse taso senje tanje jelo cho so to chinje labdo so cholando longwa chinje labdo so lan choba sawa chinje labdo so choba ishu su choba chinje labdo so neji chi da banda lama sola jepso Chichi senjala da lamen zola japsa jawa nasa banda lamen zola japsa jawa toba da jawa chinje lapto so toji shin jawa chinje lapto so danza da damba chinje la chaja chembe choje ngondo tsende yela toba chinje lapto so sanye kundo tsawa lama la kusungo ba chembe cha zalon de menelo rama shebat sadan droba nyambara chinje lo Good morning and good evening. So last year we start this class ornament of the Mahayana Sutra, which is the source of I think all the Tibetan teaching called the stage of the path. As a source, this is the source of this text. And particularly in Tibet, uh, 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 New Tantra, you can say New Tantra. In New Tantra, there are few different lineage, and particularly Kagyu lineage and Katambat lineage, including Kiluba. I think most of our lineage, Bodhicitta lineage, is come from the um, action lineage, which is from Buddha, from Shakyamuni Buddha to Maitreya, Maitreya to Asanga, Asanga through the and Vasubandhu to and later Atisha to came to Tibet. So all the action lineage, Bodhisattva training, main instruction is this particular text. Also, this is the main teaching on the Bodhicitta, on the action lineage, and and this name is a, of course, I mean, you can see called the five dharma of the Midriyas, because when in India, Mahayana is a declining. At that time, Asanga's mother, she sacrificed her vow of celibacy and had sons, and so she sent to Asanga to train the receive and what called spread the Mahayana teaching in the India. So the reason he meditate on the Buddha Midriya, I think about 12 years. After that meditation, he met Buddha Midriya face to face. So, and Buddha Midriya took him to to Tushita, and in the Tushita give these all teachings. So that way, all the five texts pay homage of the text is on the Ngondoking, which is called the ornament of the realizations. Then after the ornament of realizations, and there's called the ornament of the Mahayana Sutra, and there's other two smaller texts, which is mainly based on the mind-only school's view and meditation teachings. Then last one is a Uddara Tantra. So if you look those texts, only in the Mahayana Sutra, only the text had to pay homage, and only dedication is on the Uddara Tantra, because those texts are taught in one day in the Tushitas time. About one day, whole complete text is taught to Asanga from the Buddha Midriya. So that way they are like one continuing. So these five texts, mainly Mahayana teachings, and from these five, this ornament of the Mahayana Sutra. So that way, if you look the ornament of the Mahayana Sutra, there's no pay homage by the author and no dedications, because this is the middle text from those five. And mainly emphasizing, as earlier I said, in this text, mainly emphasizing on the Bodhicitta. But I think in the Buddhism, one thing is any text, if you look, even the smallest texts, they always have a beginning as a preliminary, and middle actually subject and conclusions, which is a kind of like a completion of the stage of the path. You can see from the small, even small commentary, small text, like maybe one of the smallest one, can say like a, 37 practice of Bodhisattva and letter to friend. Those are small texts, but still it have all the stage of the path. So that is the showing us in the Buddhism when we, if we want to become a Buddhahood, you need completion of the Dharma. So if you look the three hips of the Dharma, three hips of the jewel or whatever the sutra, it in the when come to the Dharma, it said Dharma is a beginning as a virtue, middle is a virtue, and end is with a virtue. That is showing us a Dharma must be always be with the beginning as a preliminary or motivation, and actually as a middle, as a main practice, and a conclusion or the dedication. So even with reciting one mantra, we must need those three. So that is showing us everything is a stage of the path. Uh, um, Particularly in the Vajrayana. Vajrayana is a mainly practice is the sadhana. If you look at sadhana, and all the sadhana complete with those three: virtue as a beginning, virtue as a middle, and a virtue as an end. So that is showing us I think basic idea about being Buddhism, can say. So same this text too. So that way, if you look on this text, then you can see all those, each chapter is related to the what called the stage by stage. So this text basically divided into the 5 subjects. 5 subjects. It started from the chapter 2nd, chapter 2. First chapter is related to the why this is a text, the abbreviation of the text is basically in the first chapter. From that abbreviation of the text is divided into the five group, or you can say, I think in the commentary they use as a 5 parts. Yeah. So first part is called what which is to be establishing. So first, because in India, one point there's a came that they have this kind of mis idea, can say mis idea or misunderstood, mistaken idea or misunderstood that there's some saying Mahayana is not really Buddhist teachings. I think still nowadays some of Theravada will mention that one. If you listen some of those, I'm not criticizing anyone, but sometimes Theravada master said Buddha's original word as a Theravada. Original word, it means the Buddha taught. The rest is not really. So that kind of mistaken idea, can say mistaken view, came in India earlier, especially Nagarjuna and Asanga's time. Even Asanga's brother, Asanga's brother, Basubandhu, he wrote one shloka, said Nagarjuna is the reincarnation of the Mara, and my brother is a follower to him. So that kind of criticism he wrote. Then later, when he visited to his brother, Basubandhu visit his brother Asanga, and Basubandhu is really shocked because he has been 500 lifetimes Pindita. So he was really smart and sharp. And he asked answer and, to his brother when they're discussing. And he asked really sharp question. And whenever his brother asked, Asanga asked to the Basubandhu, he gave quick answer because he knew all the word. So, but When Asanga's answer, it take time. Yeah. So Basubandhu asked to Asanga, why are you taking so long to answer? But when he gave answer so profound. Basubandhu really admire his answer because he's a knowledgeable person, because that is the difference between the knowledgeable one and the stupid one. Stupid one cannot debate because they only argue, fight. You never listen to others' opinion, others' view. Only said my is but the knowledgeable one, they know how to explain their own view, but they also know how to listen to other when they're telling. So when Basubandhu was asking question to the Asanga, and Asanga's answer was kind of like a slow but really profound. So and Basubandhu asked to Asanga, how come you give a really slow answer but so profound? So then Asanga said, I asked my deity, Buddha Midriya. So Buddha Midriya is helping me. That way my answer is kind of delayed but profound. So that time then Basubandhu asked him to, can I see the Buddha Midriya? And Buddha Midriya said, you're not going to see him this life because you criticizing the Mahayana teachings. That is a really heavy negative karma. Because of that heavy negative karma, even you have been 500 lifetimes, you have no chance to see me in this life. But in the future, if you confess and learn the Mahayana teachings. So after that, the Basubandhu became a disciple of his brother, and he wrote lots of commentary on his brother's teachings. So that is a background about why needed the Mahayana as establishing the Mahayana as a Buddha's teachings at that time. So that is the first chapter. Then that is a part one, and part two is called the what is to be. Specifical no, so specifically you have to know about like a refuge, family, bodhicitta, and practice. Those chapters are particularly talking about the specifical. That's a part two. Then part three is called the what is to be reflected openness. What you're reflecting. So you're reflecting on the darkness. You're reflecting on the all knowingness, and or you're reflecting on the maturation. So those chapters are based on the reflection. Then that's part three. Then part four is called the inconceivable. What is the inconceivable? Is mean the inconceivable which is the beyond the reflection. So which is talking about the enlightenment. Enlightenment is beyond the reflection. Reflection cannot what called the comprehend the enlightenment, because enlightenment is beyond the conceptual. Reflection is a part of the conceptual. So the reason, if you look the text, what called the Shantideva's, why Bodhisattva contact, is said ultimate is beyond the concept mind, because concept mind is a concepted mind cannot reach to the ultimate nature, because it is beyond the concept. So that way I call the inconceivable. Enlightenment is only can see by the enlightened beings. Yeah. So how to gain that is not from the reflection, through the meditation. Make sense? So the reason knowledge and experience is different. Knowledge can see the cover of the face of the object, but realization see the inside of the object. Like if we don't know about any things about the car, we only see the color and shape, design. Yeah. But if you know about the car, then you know, if by hearing the sound of the car, you can tell what kind of engine, what kind of model, what kind of all detail is it you can know. So this is so through the realization you can gain that one. So that way is beyond the concept of reflection. That way is called the inconceivable. So that is the part 4. So this is those last chapter 10, first to 10, as those 4 parts, in teaching on those 4 parts. Now is the 5th part. 5th part is called accomplishment. 5th part is, I think, is called accomplishment. Yeah, approach to enlightenment. So 5th part is basically approach the enlightenment. So this approach into the enlightenment, and there's like a chapter, I think 20, chapter 12 or something. So first one is called the interest. So here you can see here in the chapter 11 is interest. Interest is here, interest or faith or I think it's a similar interest or faith. So you need something to interest to gain that enlightenment. Without the interest, you're not going to reach anything. So that way, first is talking about the interest here. There's I think like a 26 interest to all different type of interest. So here's a following is a recapitulation, is an recapitulation, introduction, establishing refuge. Oh, sorry. So this is, sorry. The first word is talking about the reflection of the last chapter 10. Oh, sorry. So following is a recollection, introduction, the chapter 1, establishing, chapter 2, refuge, potential is talking about the family. Likewise, the spiritual intent is talking about the bodhicitta, and one's own and others' benefit, and thatness, powers, full maturation, and enlightenment. So this is a chapter. Oh, refuge. Okay, this is a last chapter 10, kind of like I don't know.
Like a summary of what's coming
Yeah,
forward.
summarizing, some conclusion of summarizing of the last chapter 10. So now it's a start from here, verse 2. Interest may be arising, non-arising, subjectified, and objectified, received from friends, naturally mistaking, unmistaken, manifest, or otherwise non-manifest, produce from sound, investigated, and viewing. So also explore, how to say, expropriable? Yeah, expropriable, mix, unadulterate, by counter agent, inferior, vast, obscure, and unobscure, diligent, non-diligent, with accumulation, without, firmly engage and advance. So there's a 26. I think there's a 26 of interest. So this is generally talking about all different type of interest. Basically, everything have a have to start with interest. Without the interest, not going to gain any kind of a mundane or super mundane achievement. So for the reaching to the we have to interest. So in the Buddha's sutra, the one quote said, "Developing faith like a mother lending her children preserves all good quality, make them grow." So faith lead all the good things. So this is talking about from the interesting, some kind of like having faith or having interest in the Mahayana. So if you want to be engaging on the Mahayana path, you need interest. If you have a good interest, it's just like how mother lead to the children on the right path, you know. So similar like that. So that way, first we have to know what is the interest mean. That uh, Sudra of the precious lamb also mentioned as a devotion is a preliminary. It's like a mother who, uh, you know, like mother protect us and mature us, grow us. Yeah. So protect, that's basically parent do. So similarly, devotion help that way, you know, show us the direction, mature us, protect us from the mistaken path. So continually. So the reason this why we need interest. But first, having interest on the Mahayana path, first you have to know what is a different type of interest here. So different type of interest is there are 26, I think. So one is called the by arising. Uh, so by arising is talking about the general interest. Uh, so it's arising mean the already present, something already present. So I think that is called the by arising. Non-arising is not yet arise that interest, not yet. Um, and subject. Subject is talking about the interest itself, mental factor of interest is itself. You know, it's a mental factor, part of the mental factor, you know, mind and mental factor. Yeah. Mind and a mental factor. Mental factor have a 50 some. One is called the interest. Okay. So this one is called the subject. Object is based on the uh, different type of interesting as has been made object as a designated or the external interest. So there is a subject and object. So subject as an internal mental factor and object as an external phenomena. Yeah. Uh, Receive from the friend. This one is a uh, receive from the friend is a basically talking about the spiritual master. Interesting gain through the spiritual master's instruction. When spiritual master give you the instruction, and through that too, you gain the interest. Like first you have no idea about the dharma, but you met someone, and someone give you, you know, instruction to you should practice the dharma. Dharma gain this kind of benefit, and dharma is how great it is. And those all through his or her help, and you arising interest on the dharma. So some that is called the receive from the friends. In here, friend is talking about the spiritual masters. So basically in the dharma, sometimes you see the friend, sometimes you see the spiritual master, sometimes you see the companion. All is talking about the same. Anything is anyone. anyone you are influencing with the positive, bring you to the positive direction, physically and emotionally. That is called a good companion or spiritual master, spiritual companion. Anyone bring you the negative way, any kind of physically or emotionally, any kind of negative your is increasing is called the evil companion or evil friends. So here friend is talking about someone who influencing you with the um, mm, mm, uh, can say positive or good virtues. Yes, virtuous direction, positive direction, bring you in that is called friends, okay, or good companions. So here basically talking about the spiritual masters. Then naturals. Natural uh, is a you already have the seed of the interest. This seed of interest is naturally come without anyone's influences. Why? Because in many lifetime you already trained. So some people born with that interest without anyone's what called encouragement. You have a naturally devotion, naturally faith to the dharma, and sometimes even your older family member or anyone try to stop you, it's impossible to stop. Make sense? That is because come the in naturally. uh, so that is called the nature interest with the naturally. Then mistaking mean that you interesting by learning or hearing for the wrong kind of teachings, wrong kind of a path, wrong kind of a ideology, and you follow with that. It's called the mistaking interest, because something is not real. But something is not real, but through that someone's influences, or I think nowadays it's called a brainwash, yeah? Through the someone's brainwash, you believe something that will give you some what you looking. Make sense? That's a mistaking path. You can call the wrong view. You can call the barbarian type of a belief, whatever, whatever that anything that is impossible. Like sometime there are certain religion believe by making others suffering gain you merit. That's impossible, including the animal sacrifice. So that kind of a path is mistaken, because by making others suffering, it never will gain you any happiness. On that, you have to face the consequences of that negative karma. Makes sense? So that way, mistaking interest mean that something that following with that. Then unmistaken mean that you follow into the right teachings, right path, that something that definitely will give you the happiness and joy. Yeah. So that is called the unmistaken interest. So I'm not saying because we are Buddhism we are unmistaken, but if you look uh, um, this way, even when come to the peace, when come to the calm and compassion, everybody mention about the Buddha. Yeah. So even one time I had one teacher, English teacher. He was a former minister of the Catholic, a Christian minister, and he retired from the minister. Even he said, we need more Buddhism to make world peace. Reason is Buddha's teaching is all about bringing us to peace and happiness. Because if you follow to the, Buddha's teachings, definitely you gain the peace and happiness. No matter how difficult it is, if you not give up, you will gain the permanently peace and happiness. So that's you don't need to worry about the from that path to go to the wrong result, gain the wrong result. Make sense? So that way, when you follow to the Buddha's teachings, I can say unmistaken interest. Because why is it unmistaken? Is it because every sentient being looking to happiness. No one is looking suffering. So how you gain the happiness, how you gain the peace is by following to the, positive action, by following the meritorious activities. Only that way you gain the happiness and peace. So that is a Buddha taught. Like if you look the Four Noble Truth, base of the Buddha's teaching is a Four Noble Truth. If you look the Four Noble Truth, it's only two subjects, truth of the suffering and the truth of the cessations. So what is the cause of suffering? What is the cessation cause of the cessations? So that is showing us if you really want to gain the cessation or the nirvana peace, and you should follow to the Buddha's teachings. It will definitely give you the nirvana and peace. So that way it's called the unmistakenness. Then manifests. So when all the favorable condition complete, then will interest on the Mahayana teachings, or the interest or faith on the Dharma will arise. No one, there is no way to can stop. So need all those favorable conditions. So cause and condition all come together, good merit, devotion, and those all cause and condition come together will manifest the interest on the Mahayana teachings. And otherwise, non-manifest mean that when all the condition and cause condition are not complete, when cause and condition are not present, then it will not going to manifest by just wishing, just hoping. Make sense? So that way, non-manifest mean that is a not complete of a cause and condition on that faith. So like heavy faith, heavy faith is not come just naturally, not come just somebody who have thoughtful. So not come just because somebody can think. It have to have lots of cause and condition to develop that faith. So even many people really educated, but having faith is difficult. Sometimes I really don't understand. Some people really agree everything what Buddha said, but they couldn't follow to the Buddha's teachings because they don't have interest in. Why they don't have interest in? Even they agree everything because they are lack of the merit and condition. Make sense? So when you don't have a favorable condition, you're not going to gain the even faith of trusting, believing and interesting. That kind of faith not going to come. So that reason, actually, Arya Deva said, having even the doubt need great merit. Forget about the faith, trust, interest. Even doubt need great merit. Sona membe chedila tezon zayang sami gyurs. Get the tezon za soja sibur hubur gyurs. So in the Arya Deva said, lack of the merit or someone who are what called the little merit, or little merit, even not going to have a doubt on this dharma. This dharma is talking about the ultimate dharma of the emptiness. Even you have a doubt, it will break the samsara in pieces. So that is showing us having faith or trust or interesting need a great support of the merit and faith. So that way, all those cause and condition come together will manifest. Without the cause and condition, it's not going to manifest that interest in the Mahayana teachings. Okay, so in Buddha's teaching is not going to get manifest just naturally. Produce from the sound. Produce from the sound means you listen. You don't know anything about the Dharma, just listen. Through the listening, then you learn about the Dharma, then you gain the interest. So that is called the produce from the sound. It means that you by hearing um, Dharma teachings, then slowly, you gain the interest in the Dharma, interest in the Buddhism, and interest in the Islam. So I heard a lot of people went to, curious with the curiosity of a thought, went to Dalai Lama's talk, public talk, or some of those, some of those great teachers' public talk. After going that one, and they gain the interest or faith to the Buddhism, then they join later to the Buddhism. So that is come from the what called producing from the sound. Then investigative, yeah, as a produce the faith through your own investigation. Is a contemplation, yeah, by your investigating. So when you investigate, then you gain the sudden what called knowledge. Through that knowledge, and you start having interest on the Dharma. So that way, through the investigation, mean the contemplation, then the viewing. Would that be like reading? No. Sorry. So the viewing mean through the realization. So when you realizing, you directly see, yeah, that's called the viewing. Yeah. In Sanskrit, I think it's called the drisha. I think something called the drisha. So which is mean the directly seeing that some things. So that way viewing. So when you realizing, then you have this, gain the certainty through the realization. So that way it's called the viewing. Somebody come late, then asking me to co-host. Okay. So viewing is I think through the realization. How to say this?
Expropriable.
Expropriable. So expropriable is, I think, is talking about that someone can take away.
Yeah.
A wrong way. Like lots of time, if people their mind influencing by the Mara or spirit, and they take to the wrong direction. It's called, the Tibetan called the topa. It means that like a stalling from you. Yeah, your interest is stalling you, which is mean that you take the wrong direction. So some kind of like a wrong path. So through the wrong view, or through the Mara's influences, wrong view teachings, or through the Mara's influences, you take to the wrong direction. Uh, so that is called expropriables. And mix is a uh, so mix with like a devotion, mixed with attachment, yeah, yeah, like compassion mixed with anger, so kind of like a or mixed with a negative emotion. Yeah, that is called a mixed interest. It means that like you have a devotion, you have a faith, same time you have a doubt, you have a kind of like a negative thought. So that is called a mix, and unadulterated by the counter agent. So which just mean the like pure interest without any kind of uh, uh, what called a mistaken view or mistaken emotion as a mix. So that way is I think it's called the unadulterated um, counter agent. So I don't know English, that this word is for me a little bit difficult, this word, but it's basically talking about something is not mixed with any kind of a negative. Your interest is not mixed any kind of a negative. You have a pure devotion, pure interest, you know. So because sometimes our interest in the Dharma is mixed with the negative. It's called the eight worldly concern. You come to the Dharma to gain some kind of power. You come to the Dharma to gain to the some kind of recognition. You know, like lots of time these days, most of people go to the Dharma school, go to the retreat for the certificate. You know, your main aim is a certificate. Your not main aim is not really enlightenment. So that way, then you, when you finish your school, you finish your retreat, you can get some job, high-paying job. Make sense? So that is a mix. If we do the Dharma for the wrong reason, that's what this mix mean. So why is it mixed? Because we learn in Dharma, we meditate on the Dharma to gain the mundane benefit. So that's a mix with attachment. Faith mixed with attachment. Unmixed means without any kind of this kind of a recognition, and you purely practice. I mean, some of my classmates, they've done all the 9 years of study, and they've done all the 3-year retreat, but they never pursued any kind of titles. Still, they live as a really simple monk. So that is really called, I think, talking about the called the non-adulterated by the counter agent, pure devotion. You know, just following to the. I heard in the earlier, you know, before 1959 in the Sara, there's one really famous monk. He was kind of like a substitute teacher in the Tibetan called the Gyorben. He's from Kham. If he graduate that year, he can be number one Geshe Laramba. But right before graduation, he ran away. He went through all the training. When he gained the title, he just ran away. He doesn't want the title. So that kind of is called the pure, you know, interesting in the Dharma. So most of us actually mix with the our interest is with the mix. So if you're not looking to the title, if you're not looking to the mundane gain, and the heart is the what is called the pure uh, interest, pure faith. because you're looking to the nirvana. You're not looking for the mundane benefit, eight-worldly concern, free from eight-worldly concern. I think that type of as it should be called the what called the unadulterated by the impure interests. Make sense? Then inferior, how to say this? Inferiors. Is it like a interest of the individual liberation? Individual liberation is impure because of only self-benefit. So that way it's inferiors, kind of like a looking small things, small benefit. Then a vast, see, some both benefit, self and other. So this is mainly based on the altruistic motivations. So there's vast and obscure and unobscures. So obscure mean when you are on the path, you have obscuration of the gaining to the higher realization. It's called the what called obscure interest, and unobscure mean the without any kind of a what called the hindrances of the your path. It's called the unobscure interest. Diligent, it means the interest with the joyfully continuing, and joyfully putting effort on that achievement of the interest. Non-diligent means the like opposite of that, laziness. Yeah. Then with the accumulation mean that now your interest supported by the good merit, great accumulation of merit. Because lots of time, I mean, we wishing to be good, successful practitioner. We wishing to be realize the Mahamudra. We wishing to be all those, achievement, mundane way or super mundane ways. We have an interest. Everyone have an interest, but achieving that interest is not sure. Because if you have a support of the good accumulation, you will achieve that interest. So that way, interest with the accumulation. It means that then if you are part of the application, if you have a great accumulation of merit, you will gain the path of the seeing. If you don't have a great accumulation of merit, even you have an interest of the realization of the mind or nature, you're not going to gain that nature. So the reason I think sometimes, we practice the Mahamudra, but I have a realization, having difficulty to realization is sometimes it's a lack of the merit. Sometimes we meditate on the karma abiding. I mean, too much obstacle comes physically, emotionally. I think a lot of time is a lack of the merit. So accumulation of merit is a necessity. Like even Shakyamuni Buddha, from the path of the application to gain to the path of the seeing, it took him to one great eons. Accumulation merit in one great eon reached to the path of the seeing. So a great eon is not short time. So the reason need accumulation, and without mean the lack of the complete merit. Firmly engage. So a firmly engage means once you reach to the first bhumi, then your interest is really firm. Now, no matter what circumstance comes, no matter what condition comes, you're not going to lose the interest. You're not going to lose the faith. Right now, we can have a faith through the Dharma, but because of some small circumstance, we lose the faith. But when you reach to the first bhumi, After the first bhumi, no matter what happened, you will never lose your interest. You will never lose your faith. That is called the firm interest. Okay. Then the advance mean after the eighth bhumi, then you have a non-dual realization, and you don't have a, conceptual thought of the duality. So that way, it's advanced. It's really high. So this is called there's 18 different, no, 26 different type of interests. So there's a 16 obscuration. Can you say obscuration?
Obstacles, hindrances,
Yeah.
downfalls.
16 obstacle of the interest. There's a 16 different obstacles. First is called the abundant failure to keep faith in the mind. It means that you generate or manifest interest in the Dharma, but you're not keeping continually by reflecting again and again on it. Because like sometimes we have a faith to the Dharma, okay, come to Dharma from the faith or interest. But once you get there and you cut off something else, and you lose that faith, you lose that interest, then you're searching something else. In the Mahayana, in the Tibetan, some master said, this is like a old renounce accumulation. Somebody have been long time renounced practitioner, but some point and start accumulating materials. So things that is you first you had to renounce, then you renounce from the mundane life, but then you get to the society of the monastery, then you start doing the mundane things. I think that is what it means, that you're not continually keeping that. So that way you're failing your interest. Yeah. So that is what mean the first one is called the failure to keep faith. Why is a failure? Is because we're not reflecting, we're not being mindfulness of that interest continually. Yeah. And the second one is, of course, laziness. Lazy have there are many different lazies. Sometimes lazy mean just we don't want to do anything. Yeah. But sometimes lazy means we caught up doing bad things. So busy that we don't have time to, practice Dharma. So, like you become a monk, but then all time you're busy with business or running to something, So including the politicians. So that is a part of the laziness, because you're busy with doing something negative, I think. So laziness has lots of different things. It means that, and disrupted practice. Disrupted practice, yeah. Disrupted practice means that now you have a grasping on the believing existence of the subject and object. So that is what is disrupted practice. Bad companies, bad companion, bad bad influencing by the companion. That's called a bad company. Anyone, because for us, what is the good company, what is the bad company mean? Somebody agree with you whatever you do, and somebody support no matter what you do. We say they love me no matter what. Yeah. But here when it comes to the Dharma, when you do something negative, they must punish you. A good companion, a good teacher will punish you. The irresponsible teacher, when you do the mistake and not saying anything, still kind to you, that means that really irresponsible teacher. So that way, bad companion mean the company. Bad companion mean someone who, supportive to you, you're doing bad things, or someone who influencing you bad way. So that is called the bad companies. Feeble merit, it means that like you have a merit but really tiny one. Like if you just collected a few Kindles, fire will be really weak. So that way, just a small merit, and keeping incorrect idea in mind. So there's called a like a incorrect what call
Be like wrong view.
sorry where keeping incorrect idea mean that like a believing existing of the self, the phenomena are not self. Samsara is a suffering, but think as samsara is a joy. So that kind of incorrect idea. That then carelessness. So what is the carelessness and what is the careful? As when our mind is corrupted with the afflictive emotion of attachment, aversion, ignorance, and lack of diligence, is called the carelessness. When our mind with the free from attachment, aversion, ignorant, and diligent, that's called the carefulness. So here carelessness means the mind is erupted or mind is corrupted by this kind of negative emotion and with the laziness. So that is it's called a carelessness with this four. Okay, mind with the attachment, aversion, ignorance, and laziness. That is called a carelessness. Little learning, have not much knowledge. So when you are little knowledge, then it's really difficult to gain the interest actually on the faith. So you have to learn. Being satisfied with the little learning and reflections. So sometimes people say, oh, don't need to learn too much. Just practice. Just practice. Only few can actually do practice without the learning. So those need a great faith, trust, like a Milarepa. Milarepa never went to any kind of school, but his faith and trust is irrevocable, like cannot return.
It's not irrevocable.
It's something that no one can stop.
Yeah.
So that kind of, if you have, then you then you just follow to the like a how trust by Naropa to the Diluba. So for us, nowadays people are really, they think themselves as a intelligent. They have intelligent mind. They are really what called analyzer. They analyze everything. So if you have that kind of a sense faculty or that kind of a what personality, then you must learn. Because if you not learn, you're not going to faith. You're not going to have your faith and trust is not going to be so really form, because you doubt everything. So that way you have to learn and reflect. And they said pride in a calm alone. And sometimes when you have a certain subtlety of the meditation, you gain some kind of little bit of meditation, calm abiding, and you have a pride about, oh, I'm wonderful. I have this, ability to, I can meditate for as long as I want. I'm a great practitioner. So calm abiding alone cannot eliminate your root of the samsara. If you want to be root of the samsara, not just only calm abiding, you need a vipassana. So it cannot be just pride of this. Likewise, it is a field. Field? What is field? Huh?
And likewise, it is held.
Held. Hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Failure of the habituate. So mean that you have a sudden gain the understand and the knowledge, but you not practice. So you fail the habituating. It means that you not meditate. Okay. Okay. Lack of the disenchantment,
Disenchantment.
lack of disenchantment mean that you don't have a renunciation from the samsara. Okay. Then second one said likewise the disenchantment, but sometimes you have too much renunciation of the samsara, so that way you never will return to the samsara to benefit sentient beings. So that is also mistaken. Too, lack of the renunciation, but too much renounce. Because if you have too much renounce, then you will never come back to the samsara to benefit sentient beings. Then that way you not will have you cannot generate the bodhicitta. So those both are mistaken. Being obscure and lack of the diligent and failure of the accumulated merit, these are the recognized as an obstacle to interesting. So obscure is I think we already talked about the obscure, and then all the accumulated merit, lack of failure of the accumulated merit, and so this diligent and those are, so there's a 16 different obstacle to your interest. So this 16 will cause you to losing your interest or not manifest your interest. Now it's a beneficial of the interest. Great merit. It's a great merit means that right now, if you have an interest, you have a faith to the Mahayana, to the Dharma, have great accumulated merit. Okay. Absence of the regret, it means the past interest. You not in regret. Yeah, you shouldn't regret when you have interest in the Dharma. Whatever you have done in your life, Dharma, you shouldn't regret. So it should be absence from the regret. Mental bliss. So when you have a realization of the suwa rashi me ba toba. Suwa rashi me ba mean the realization of the so it's there called the sungzing subject and object. Okay, when you have a realization of the object as a nature of empty, it's called the partial realization of the suchness of a phenomena. Because the phenomena are divided into the subject and object. Okay, so when you realize the object fight, can say, free from object fight, so that is called a mental bliss and a great bliss, and it mean the object as a free from grasping. So this is a when subject and object complete realizing nature is called the thatness or suchness. So this complete realization of the suchness, you will have a mental bliss and a great bliss. Because when you are free from the grasping on the object, your mind is peace. When you realize that mind itself is free from the what called the subject fight, object fight, subject fight, yeah, mind, subjective, mind free from the subjective, then you're totally liberated. That's called the great bliss. Great bliss is basically something that is never going to lose from that. You know, mundane bliss is a which can be enjoyed a little bit, but after that, again go back. Like you're hungry, eat food, you enjoy, but after a few hours, you're again hungry. Make sense? So when you're cold, you use the heater, but then when you use the heater too hot, you so joy of a heat is gone after a little while, then too hot. So that kind of the bliss is called the not great bliss because it's changing. But a great bliss means that once you gain something, then you never lose that one. So that is called the great bliss. So through the realization of the suchness, you will gain the pure great bliss without the losing. So that is what mean the mental bliss and great bliss. It's talking about the suchness of the subject and object. Realization of the suchness of the subject and object is called the good bliss. No wastage. So when you are free from the evil companion, when you're free from the obscurations, and your accumulation of merit, your devotion, your faith, your interest will be not wastage. Yeah, if your interest is with the what called the influencing by the evil companion or lack of a merit or obscure, then it will be wastage. Waste, yeah. Stabilities. As a stability mean the interest is come from your own, within from you. Like if you really have an interest in the Dharma, even no matter what happened, you will not lose that one. You may change the center, you may change the guru, you may change the environment, but you not lose the Dharma, interest in the Dharma. But if you don't have interest that come from within you, then when you face into the some kind of circumstance, you will lose the faith. So that way, it's called the stabilities. Then similarly, enhancement.
Means to improve.
Yeah. Similarly, mean the like before. It's like enhancement mean the interest in that is not mistaking, manifest, and from the sound, uh, from the investigate, from the viewing, and this kind of interest is called the enhancement. Direct realization of the nature of the phenomena, which means that when you see the first bhumi, when you have a first realization of the emptiness, is called the direct realization of the nature of phenomena, and the supreme attainment of the one's own other's goal. So it means the supreme attainment of the Buddhahood. A quick preternatural knowledge. These are the benefit of interest. Quick preternatural knowledge.
Preternatural means like beyond what is normal or natural, like
Okay.
supernatural.
Okay. Okay, so I think this, okay, this is, yeah. Now, that is the basic about the discrimination of the, can say discrimination, yeah, discrimination of the interests. What is the obscuration of the interests and what is the beneficiary of the interests? Now, it's called the Maha interest on the specifically interest on the Mahayana, specific explanation of the interest in the great vehicle. Called the interest of the desire is like dog. It's now divided into there's few difference. Interest in the desire is a dog means the desire runs. Dog, no matter how much you feed, they always want. Never be satisfied with food. So desire one being is like that. No matter how much you gain, you're never satisfied. You want more and more and more. So our interest, desire interest is like that. So that way, so desire is sometimes you see the craving is you see the alcohol like. And alcohol is never satisfied with drinking until they pass out. So this is a draw. Those with the concentration is like a total. That form RAM. So form RAM is like a total. They so much absorb in their meta absorptions. It's like a total totally inside the cocoon of their, because they're inside that stay shelf. Yeah, okay. And that those who achieve their own goal is like the servant. So because a servant always worrying about the master's failure, and like if you working under the somebody boss, you always constantly worry about making mistake, if this and that. So that way you always so individual liberator is like a servant, always worrying about the fear of the samsara, fear of the suffering, fear of the rebirth, and this all worrying about that way is like servants. That those who achieve the others' goal is like kings, because king is overpower everything, the whole kingdom is under the control of the king. Similarly, Mahayana is the interest is like that. So this is a 4 different type of interest, different. Desire realms interest is like a dog, never satisfied. Form realm interest is completely kind of like a hiding under the shelf of the total, without any kind of mental activities. Yeah, totally absorb on the, because completely put the wall of what called secure to mind completely absorb into the like total hiding inside the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah, and individual liberation is like a servant because servant always a worrying, fear of a failure, fear of the disappointment, fear of those. So that way, it's full of worrying. It's like servants, individual liberation. And the Mahayana is the like a king, overpower everything, samsara and nirvana, both. So that way, kings. So this is a brief. Now it's a detailed explanation. So why is it called just as a dog is constantly tormented by the hunger and never satisfied. Like before your lunch, you give the dog food and you go to eat your lunch on the dining table, a dog will come next to you, hoping to get some food from you. So desire ram is like that, like a dog, never satisfied. I think we don't need to explain that one. Every one of us, we are in the desire realm. Every one of us have that, You look in something, when you get that one, you have no time to enjoy with that. Then you look at something else. Because whatever you gain, you bore immediately, that one. You want something else. And nowadays, those marketing people, they really study on us. They knew how to manipulate to us, our mind. So that way they put all those ads on the TV, paying so much money because they know how to manipulating our mind. So when you should, then you say, oh, I need that one. Sometimes even you really don't need, but you feel like, oh, that'd be cool. I need that one too. So this is so that way our desire is never be satisfied. So that is like a dog, that way. Total is a water remain completely withdrawing. So why total is hiding in the shelf? Because worrying about the others' harm comes. Yeah. So meditative absorption is like that. Just worrying about all those conceptual and thought. So that way you actually totally obscure. You don't have any more wisdom of thoughtful knowledge. You are just shell.
Is it like being self-centered instead of being
No,
altruistic?
no. This is not self-centered. It's a different.
Okay.
Talking about the form realms,
All right.
formless realms. The servant move around and their body always cow in fears. Servant every movement they worry about. Make sure I don't make mistake. Make sure I please my master. Always. So it's the same as an individual liberator, self-centered. Self-centered is always like that. So Shantideva said, like sensitive people seems like they have a more harm. It's like if you have a cut in this area of your body wound, feel like every movement is touching there. That muscle is used most of the time because that area is become more sensitive. Make sense? So same way when we're self-centered, it's become everything is our enemy. Everyone is our enemy because it's feel like everyone is harming to us. Not just only body, even the materials. If you attach too much on the particular object, it makes you miserable. Sometimes it causes so much suffering that you harming yourself with a suicide. Actually, that is really stupid. but we do that one because of the harm. It's, so it's just like we always constantly worry about something. Self-centered one. Then so, where are we now?
The very end of 10.
Serving and the king governor his domination by his uh, edict,
Edicts.
edicts.
Proclamations.
Yeah, his order.
Yeah.
He can order. So like Mahayana is like that. It's dominated to the samsara and nirvana, bodhisattva. Because of the wisdom dominated the nirvana. Because of the compassion dominated the samsara. Similarly, you should always distinguishing the among the various kind of interestings of those who are distracted, who remain withdrawing, who benefit themselves, and who bring benefit for others. So, who distracted means always be looking for the material gain, desire to the object. So that is distracted. Mind is always distracted with the emotion of attachment. Who remain the withdraw means that always be hiding from the conceptual and any of those. So that way it's like a form realm. Who benefit themselves is a individual liberation or Hinayana path, and who bring the benefit of other is a Mahayana path. So then said satisfies. Satisfies is also another name of the Bodhisattva. Yeah, Bodhisattva is also called, sometimes it's called the Tempa. Okay, so it's a satisfies who properly understanding that the interest in the great vehicle is the best. Okay. Well, in this context, forever seek that same interest in it. Now, here's. Yes, that Mahayana path is like king, but then caution is come, worry is come this way. But still, in the Mahayana, it's really difficult to do because you have to give your body, your head, and many things you have to give away, like this difficulty. And also, you need the fearless of suffering of samsara for the benefit of sentient beings. So that kind of a hardship have to accept, let go even your body, being brave enough to even let go your body to can give up, can give to the others' sake, and also brave enough to can tolerate any kind of suffering in the samsara, all the suffering in the samsara. So if that way it can be reached to the Buddhahood. So this kind of a path is only corrigible one. Said only corrigible one, and I am really not that type of courageous person. So that way, path is not for me. Sometimes we have a doubt like that. Lots of time we have this kind of doubt. Oh, those are so high level beings, advanced ones. I'm not capable of this one. I'm not good enough. So I think, especially in the Asian culture, have this low self-esteem. We teach that way from the childhood. It seems like it will never be good enough. So I think that is sometimes it's not good. The Western, I think, the education on that part is really good from the childhood to give the self-esteem. They believe them, they can do anything, make them feel like. So I think this is here talking about saying sentient being born in the human in infinite number, the very instance. So this is a sentient being born in the humans. Now, why we call the precious human? Because from the 6 realms, most favorable base for the Dharma practice is the human. Why is a human are the most favorable? Is it because human is not totally tortured by suffering like a hell beings, hungers, animals. So they have enough freedom. So they have complete freedom of if they put effort can practice Dharma. But same time, they not become completely careless or worryless because of that there's no suffering like a God realm. Life is totally joyful. But humans have enough suffering that make them mindfulness. And by the same time, they are totally free from all the unfavorable conditions. So that way, humans are the most favorable vessel to receive the Dharma teachings, majoritarily. So that way, said being born in the human mean, okay, infinite numbers. It means that there's not just only one human being become enlightenment like Buddha, infinite of them. Like in India, if you look at history, all those Buddhist Buddhist time, how many people gained the Arhat? How many people gained the Bodhisattva realization? How many Mahasiddhas? Countless of them actually. Nowadays, people saying 80 Mahasiddhas. 80 isn't just one occasion. They gather together, 80 Mahasiddha. That way, you can go 80 Mahasiddha is become. There's no really 80 is a number like that.
Yeah.
Countless of them. Then when come to the Dharma in Tibet, like in the Kagyu lineage, in the Drupal Kagyu said, all the worlds have human being are a Drupal lineage follower. Half of Drupal as a great yogi, half of those great yogi as a Mahasiddha. So the whole world is they say this disciple of the Drupal lineage they said even the vultures 18 days flying that much provided all over the in Jambudvipa. Because of most of those great yogi, once they receive teaching, they gone every mountain and every different place to rest of their life to meditate, and they achieve the Rambo body. Like Milarepa, how many disciples? Most of their life story we don't know because they just dedicated their life to the meditation. They achieved the Rambo body. And the Digungaju is the same. Said all the mountain are Digung, all the village are Digung. So one time this is a true story. One time as a one Drupal master called the Kozamba Gobutoji. One of his disciples came, said, "Master, please don't send me. There's a place there's a Digung monk. They're really complicated people. They're really difficult for me." So he not get along with the Digung monk. So then Kozam Gombotoji said to him, in this Zambuling, and this on this earth, I cannot send you anywhere there's a non-Digung monk. So that's showing us how many of those are really, truly dedicated practitioner followers. Each monastery, even my near my hometown, there's one now. It's a really small monastery. One period of time, they're saying like they have a 5,000 monks. That's one of the small monastery. Not really historical monastery like Dalagambo, Pamundrubas, then Diguntil, that kind of. Then historical, those monasteries have so many of them. So showing us that many reach to the nirvana by following to the path. Make sense? So it's just in India and Tibet. If you look at the history, so infinite number. Especially Kajuba. That reason they have a Kajuba have a lots of different lineage because each master become so popular that his own tradition become a new lineage. Like Chejan Trumbo became so popular in the West. Now Katamba, what called this? What called this? Shambhala.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they became their own lineage now. So like that, it's in the Kagyu lineage, it became like that. So many of them master, they become their own lineage because they are so popular, so many followers at one point. Then slowly we become a victim of some things. So that is showing us a infinite number who reach. So that way is saying is a sentient being born in the human, an infinite number, and every instant. Also, that's not like a one time. Every instant means the many time. The Holiness wrote one prayer in there said even the what called them Agnish Pure Lane become crowded from the Kaju master. It's a poem, so that kind of like every instant attain the perfect enlightenment. So do not give into losing heart. Losing heart means the kind of a disencouragement. So it's just not like a difficulty, impossible. It's a possible. I mean, it's just difficult. Yes, it's difficult. It's not easy, but it's a possible. If you put the effort. So that way Milaraba said, if you deep enough dig, you will find water anywhere, any part of the earth. From anywhere you will find the water if you dig deep enough. If you rub hard enough, any wood can produce the fire. Same way, if we put the effort, diligent, perseverance, they have nothing to set what called the accomplishing in the human realm. Just as a merit grow from the giving food to the others, but not from the eating food oneself, the greater merit of the which is the Sudra speak. So that was said. Now, so what is different? Individual liberation path follower and altruistic path followers. Individual liberation path follower is like food eating themselves. When you eat yourself, there's nothing gain the merit by just eating food, because eating food is those action that is called mutual action. Eating food, sleeping, walking, and those certain action called the mutual action. It's not necessarily merit, not necessarily negative. So if you eat yourself, this is not really become accumulation of a merit. But if you give that food to someone, it become a practice of generosity. You accumulate the merit. So totally different. That way, same as a, if you use, self-liberated, that's not going to have a great beneficial. If you're dedicated your life for the other, even the eating food is becoming a practice of generosity. You eating for the sake of every sentient beings. If you don't dedicate your life for the other's sake, even you eat food, you eat it only for yourself. Make sense? So that is different. That way, by this merit, this action of the altruistic motivation of the Mahayana and interest of the Mahayana can get great merit. So Sudra said, is acquire from the teaching the way of altruistic aim, and not from the teaching the way of is based on the self's goal. So in the Sudra, what said is here, greatest merit, which is a Sudra speak. In the Sudra, what said, Buddha said, if you completely feel whole the field, not just only one field of the Buddha land, every field of the Buddha land, completely feel with the jewel and offering to the Buddha, how great merit can be accumulated from that. Yeah. But if you give the Mahayana teaching to someone, that is a more greater than that one. So that's what Buddha said from the Sutra. So it requires from the teaching that way of altruistic aim is not from the teaching the way of this based on the selfish goal. So even the Mahayana teaching on the with the altruistic motivation and without the altruistic motivation is a totally different. Now conclusion, thus if we wise constantly increasing their interesting is the vast doctrine on the great noble one is talking the Mahayana. They will gain the immense uninterrupted merit. Their interest will be grow. So if you have an interest in the Mahayana, one is called the gain the immense merit, because even you eat, as earlier I said, even you eat food, you eating food for sake of every sentient beings. Whatever you do everything's a benefit of every sentient beings. So that way the measureless of the merit. Even you recite one mantra with the altruistic motivation, beneficial is the greatest. Why? Because of the supported of the altruistic motivation. Yeah. So it's just a different when government official eat food, like president or governor or this, they eating food for the all the subject. So that way we pay their food. Actually, citizen pay their food. More valuable than other one. Make sense? So by their food benefit whole country. But when we eat food, we only benefit ourselves, our family. Make sense? So the total benefit is different. That way, when Mahayana, with the doctrine of the Mahayana noble family, whatever you do is become immeasurable. Then once you have this altruistic motivation, you are sleeping. You are not intention to help sentient beings. You are eating, or any time, even you're not aware, your accumulation of merit is a continue. In the Shantideva's way, Bodhisattva contract said, once you generate the Bodhisattva vow, your merit will continue without the interrupt, without the stopping. Even you are lost conscious, even you are not thinking, even you are sleeping, if your accumulation of merit about from the bodhicitta is a continue. So that is called the uninterrupt. With the bodhicitta, the altruistic motivation, it can gain the immeasurable, immense, or immeasurable and uninterrupted merit. Their interest will be grow, and they will attain the Buddhahood with all the boundless qualities. So you can get ultimately become Buddhahood. Without this altruistic motivation of the bodhicitta, no one can get the Buddhahood. Make sense? So that reason why we have to have interest on the Mahayana. Those all interesting, different interesting. What is the most important interest is the Mahayana. If you're interested only for the desire realm, it's like a dog. Interested on the form realm, the only material absorption. So it means that if you attach to the sense faculty, form, sound, smell, it's like dog. Yeah. If you too absorb in the worrying about all those are become obstacle, and just meditation is become like total. And you only seeking to that personal liberation is become a servant, like always constantly worrying. But if you have an altruistic motivation, you become like king, because king overpower all the samsara, and all the subject, not just only their household, even the whole the country is under the king's power. Yeah. So same way, samsara and nirvana, everything is under control, under the power by the bodhisattva, because of the wisdom and compassion. So that reason why we have to gain the Mahayana interest. So today this chapter is basically there's so many interesting. So one of the greatest interests you should learn is the Mahayana interest, altruistic motivation, bodhicitta. Those are immeasurable. Make sense? So that is a talking about the, so why you need the faith to the Mahayana. What is different outcome? Because if you do any kind of meritorious activities, if you do with the altruistic motivation, it will be continuing, will be immeasurable result outcome from that merit. If you do any kind of meritorious activities, recite mantra, circumambulation, or anything, if you do the self liberation, self-centered, achieve the goal, it not immeasurable, it not become immeasurable, and it not become uninterrupted. Because you only have a merit whenever you performing, not the other time. So the reason Mahayana interest, faith in the Mahayana is you can get the greatest benefit for yourself also.
Does this make sense, what I'm about to say? So if you have an altruistic motivation, you can turn a neutral action into a meritorious action, and maybe a meritorious action into more merit.
Yeah.
Like when they say when you're eating.
Yeah, eating, sleeping.
Think of the guru. Yeah. And like, okay, when I eat this, may the guru also.
No, so you don't even think about the gurus anything. Yeah. If it's just eating itself, it's eating for the sake of other sentient beings.
Okay, yeah.
So that way, this is become a mutual action to become a meritorious action.
Yeah.
Eating, sleeping, walking, everything's.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of habituating your mind to always be thinking of the interconnectedness and trying to help others.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And if you have any question, you can ask here. If you don't have question, we can stop today here. I think almost 11. So. Chancho semcho rempoche ma je pa na je jo je pa nyam pa men pa ya Kone kondo pe wa sho tata konde tam che je tu son do sab yebe jewe zawa